Olivia Dawson woke up at exactly 5:30 a.m., just like she did every Monday morning. The soft beeping of her alarm clock barely finished its first alert before she turned it off. She had always been a light sleeper, especially on days with important meetings. Today was one of those days. She went through her morning routine with practiced efficiency. A quick 5-mile run through her neighborhood, a shower, and then breakfast. A simple bowl of oatmeal with blueberries and a cup of strong black coffee. As she ate, Olivia reviewed her notes for the upcoming meeting with Westview National Bank. Horizon Investment Group, the company she had built from scratch over 15 years, now managed $2.6 billion in assets. It had been a long journey from her small office in her apartment to the gleaming headquarters in downtown. Today's meeting was about expanding their banking relationship with Westview, potentially placing another $500 million under their management. "Keep it casual today," Olivia said to herself as she picked out her clothes. Though she owned dozens of expensive suits and dresses, she chose a pair of well-fitting jeans and a simple navy blue blouse. It was a deliberate choice. Olivia believed in being comfortable, and after years in the finance world, she had earned the right to dress how she pleased. Besides, she wasn't meeting with clients today, just the bank's relationship managers who already knew her well. She drove her modest sedan to the bank, arriving 15 minutes early for her 10 a.m. appointment. Westview National Bank stood tall in the heart of the financial district, its glass exterior reflecting the morning sunlight. Olivia had been banking here for years, both personally and for her business. As she walked through the revolving doors into the marble-floored lobby, Olivia took a deep breath. The bank was busy this morning, with people lined up at the teller windows and others waiting in the seating area. She approached the reception desk with a smile. "Good morning," she said to the young receptionist, a man she hadn't seen before. "I'm Olivia Dawson. I have a 10 a.m. meeting with Susan Miller about our corporate accounts." The receptionist, whose name tag read Jake, typed something into his computer. "Yes, Ms. Dawson, Ms. Miller is just finishing up with another client. Would you like to wait in the premium banking section? I'll let her know you're here." "Thank you, Jake," Olivia said, walking toward the designated area where comfortable leather chairs were arranged around small coffee tables. She sat down, pulled out her phone, and began checking her emails. Frank Thompson had been the regional manager at Westview National Bank for 8 years. At 53, he considered himself an excellent judge of character and took pride in knowing the bank's important clients. He was walking through the lobby, coffee in hand, when he noticed Olivia sitting in the premium banking section. He paused, frowning slightly. Frank didn't recognize her, and something about seeing a black woman in casual clothes in the premium section triggered an immediate reaction in him. He changed direction and walked directly toward her. Olivia looked up from her phone to see a middle-aged white man in an expensive suit standing over her. His face wore an expression she had seen too many times before. "Excuse me," Frank said, his voice carrying across the quiet section. "The premium banking area is reserved for our relationship clients. The general teller windows are over there." He gestured toward the long line of people waiting. Olivia kept her face neutral, though her heart began beating faster. "I understand. I'm waiting for Susan Miller. I have an appointment." Frank's expression didn't change. "And you are?" His tone suggested he didn't believe her. "Olivia Dawson, from Horizon Investment Group." She said it calmly, expecting the name to ring a bell. It didn't. Or if it did, Frank didn't show it. "I don't see any appointment with a Dawson in our system today," he said, though he hadn't checked any system. "Perhaps you're confused about the date, or maybe you're at the wrong branch." By now, several people in the nearby areas had turned to watch the interaction. Olivia felt her cheeks growing warm, not from embarrassment, but from the effort of containing her anger. "I'm not confused," she said firmly. "I spoke with Susan yesterday to confirm. If you'd like to check with her, her office is right down that hallway. I've been banking here for 7 years. Frank's face hardened. "Ma'am, I'm the regional manager, and I know our client list quite well. If you don't mind, I'm going to have to ask you to move to the general waiting area while we sort this out." His voice had gotten louder. And now nearly everyone in the lobby was watching. A woman at a nearby desk stood up and approached quickly. "Mr. Thompson," she said in a low, urgent voice. "This is Ms. Dawson. She's the CEO of Horizon Investment Group, one of our largest corporate clients." Susan Miller had emerged from her office just in time to witness the confrontation. Her face showed alarm and mortification as she rushed over. "Olivia, I'm so sorry to keep you waiting," Susan said, shooting a concerned look at Frank. "We're all ready for you in the conference room." She turned to Frank. "Mr. Thompson, this is Olivia Dawson, the founder and CEO of Horizon Investment Group. They manage $2.6 billion in assets, and we handle a significant portion of their banking." Frank's face went through several expressions in quick succession: disbelief, realization, and then a poor attempt at recovery. "Oh, I see. My apologies for the confusion, Ms. Dawson. I didn't recognize you." "Clearly," Olivia said. Her voice was steady, but anyone paying attention would notice she hadn't smiled once during the exchange. Susan tried to smooth things over. "Shall we head to our meeting? We have coffee and pastries waiting." Olivia stood up slowly, gathering her phone and purse. She was acutely aware that at least 3 people had their phones out, having recorded the interaction. The bank had gone strangely quiet. "Actually, Susan," Olivia said, "I think we need to reschedule. Something urgent has come up that I need to address." Her voice was professional but cold. "Of course," Susan said, looking increasingly distressed. "Is everything all right? Can I help with anything?" "No," Olivia said. "This is something I need to handle personally. I'll have my assistant call yours to find a new time." She turned to Frank, meeting his eyes directly. "Mr. Thompson, it was informative meeting you." She walked toward the exit, her head high. As the glass doors closed behind her, Olivia took a deep breath of the outside air. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her mind was clear and focused. She pulled out her phone and called her office. "Daniel," she said when her COO answered, "I need you to gather the executive team for an emergency meeting in 1 hour and contact our board members for a session first thing tomorrow morning." "What happened?" Daniel asked, concern in his voice. "I just experienced something at Westview Bank that's going to change our relationship with them. Permanently." She got into her car and started the engine. "And Daniel? Pull together the exact figures on how much we currently have deposited with them and the projections for what we were planning to move there next quarter." "Right away," Daniel said. "Are you okay, Olivia?" She thought about it for a moment. "I'm fine. But Westview Bank isn't going to be." She ended the call and pulled away from the curb, leaving the towering bank building behind her. Inside, Susan Miller was desperately trying to control the damage, while Frank Thompson stood frozen in the middle of the lobby, slowly realizing the magnitude of his mistake. By noon, the first video of the incident would be circulating among Horizon employees. By evening, it would reach social media. And by the next morning, the future of Westview National Bank would hang in the balance, all because one manager couldn't see past his own prejudice to recognize the power of the woman standing before him. By the time Olivia reached the Horizon Investment Group headquarters, her phone was buzzing nonstop. Word traveled fast in the financial world. She parked in her reserved spot and took a moment to compose herself before heading inside. The modern, glass building reflected the midday sun as she walked through the main entrance. Staff members greeted her with smiles, unaware of what had just happened. "Good morning, Ms. Dawson," said the security guard at the front desk. "Everything okay? You're back earlier than expected?" "Morning, Joe. Change of plans," Olivia replied with a tight smile. She headed straight for the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. The executive conference room was already filling up when she arrived. Daniel Wells, her chief operating officer and friend of 12 years, was the first to approach her. "What happened?" he asked quietly. "Your text just said there was an incident at the bank." "Let's wait for everyone," Olivia said, setting her purse down at the head of the table. Within minutes, the room was full. Kimberly Jackson, the chief financial officer, Alan Peters, the chief investment officer, and 5 other senior executives sat around the polished wooden table. They all watched Olivia with concerned expressions. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Olivia began. Her voice was steady now. "About an hour ago, I experienced something at Westview National Bank that requires our immediate attention." She described the incident in detail, keeping her emotions in check as she explained how Frank Thompson had publicly questioned her presence in the premium banking section. "He assumed I didn't belong there," she said simply, "and he made that assumption loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear." "That's outrageous," Kimberly said, her face showing anger. As one of the few other black women in a senior position at the firm, she understood all too well. "Did anyone record it?" Alan asked, always thinking about evidence and documentation. "At least 3 people had their phones out," Olivia confirmed. "And based on the calls I've been getting on my way back here, the videos are already circulating." Daniel leaned forward. "What do you want to do?" Olivia took a deep breath. "I want us to examine all our options for moving our business away from Westview. Immediately." The room went quiet. Westview National Bank had been their primary banking partner for years. Moving their accounts would be complicated and time-consuming. "All of it?" Alan asked. "That's over $175 million in various accounts, plus the new funds we were considering placing with them." "All of it," Olivia confirmed. "I need to know how quickly we can do this, what our other options are, and what the impact will be." Kimberly opened her laptop. "I can have preliminary numbers for you within the hour. We've had contingency plans for banking relationships, though we never expected to need them like this. I've already had calls from 3 other banks," Daniel added. "Word is spreading and they smell an opportunity." Olivia nodded. "Good. Let them compete for our business. But I want ethics evaluations on any bank we consider. I won't move from one problematic institution to another." As the meeting continued, Olivia's assistant knocked on the door. "Ms. Dawson, Susan Miller from Westview Bank has called 6 times, and the CEO, Gregory Howard, is on line 1 asking to speak with you urgently." "Tell them I'll return their calls tomorrow," Olivia said. "Today we focus on our response." Across town at Westview National Bank, chaos had erupted in the executive offices. Susan Miller sat in Gregory Howard's office, along with Frank Thompson and the head of public relations, Lisa Young. "How could this happen?" Gregory demanded, pacing behind his desk. At 62, he had led the bank for 9 years and prided himself on its sterling reputation. "Frank, do you have any idea who Olivia Dawson is?" Frank looked miserable. "I do now, sir. I made a terrible mistake." "A mistake?" Lisa interrupted. "A mistake is a typo in a memo. This was a public humiliation of one of our most valuable clients, a client who happens to manage billions in assets and who was considering expanding their relationship with us." Susan spoke up. "The videos are already online. I've seen 2 different angles on Twitter already. They're calling it racial profiling, and they're not wrong." Gregory stopped pacing and sat heavily in his chair. "Has she responded to our calls?" "No," Susan said. "And I don't expect her to today. I've known Olivia for years. She's methodical. She'll be meeting with her team right now, weighing options." "Options for what?" Frank asked. "For pulling every cent they have with us," Susan replied bluntly. Lisa was typing furiously on her tablet. "We need to get ahead of this. A public apology, maybe a statement about our commitment to diversity and inclusion." Gregory shook his head. "That won't be enough. Not for someone like Olivia Dawson. Frank, you're on administrative leave pending a full investigation." "But sir," Frank began to protest. "That's non-negotiable," Gregory cut him off. "Now leave us to try to salvage this situation." As Frank left the office, Gregory turned to Susan. "What do you think she'll do?" Susan didn't hesitate. "If I were her, I'd pull everything. Today." By mid-afternoon, the first video of the incident had gone viral. It showed Frank Thompson standing over Olivia, his body language clearly confrontational, asking her to move to the general waiting area. The caption read, "Watch this bank manager try to kick out a customer who happens to run a $2.6 billion investment fund." Westview Bank shame. A second longer video showed the entire interaction, including Susan's arrival and Olivia's dignified exit. This one was gaining even more traction. Back at Horizon's offices, the executive team reconvened. Kimberly presented their options. "We can move most of our operating accounts within 24 hours, she explained. "The more complex investment accounts will take a few days. I've had preliminary discussions with 3 banks that can accommodate us immediately." "Any of them offer better terms than Westview?" Olivia asked. Daniel smiled. "All of them. It's amazing how competitive banks get when $175 million is up for grabs, and that's not counting the additional $500 million we were considering placing with Westview." "What about the impact on our day-to-day operations?" Alan asked, always practical. "Minimal disruption," Kimberly assured him. "We'll need to update payment instructions for some clients, but we can manage that." Olivia nodded, taking it all in. "I've called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I want to present them with our plan to move forward." "And the public response?" Daniel asked. "The videos are everywhere now. People are asking for statements." Olivia thought for a moment. "No public statement until after the board meeting. But prepare a draft. Something simple that focuses on our values as a company, not on the specifics of the incident." As the meeting ended, Olivia remained in her chair, looking out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city below. Daniel stayed behind. "Are you really okay?" he asked once they were alone. Olivia turned to him. "You know what bothers me most? It's not the personal humiliation, I've dealt with that before. It's that if they treat me, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar firm, that way, how are they treating everyday customers? People without my resources or position?" Daniel nodded. "That's why you're going to pull everything, isn't it? Not just because of what happened to you." "Exactly," Olivia said. "This isn't about revenge. It's about accountability." She stood up, gathering her things. "The banking industry needs to understand that diversity isn't just a poster in the break room. It's recognizing that wealth and expertise come in all colors and genders." "What do you think Westview will do?" Daniel asked as they walked to the door. "They'll panic," Olivia said. "They'll offer apologies, diversity training, maybe even fire Frank, but that's reactive, not proactive. They're about to learn a very expensive lesson about assumptions." She checked her watch. "I need to prepare for tomorrow. The board will have questions." "The board will back you completely," Daniel assured her. "John called me earlier. He said, and I quote, 'Tell Olivia to burn that bridge and we'll build a better one.'" For the first time that day, Olivia smiled, genuinely. "Then that's exactly what we'll do." As she headed to her office, her phone buzzed with a news alert. The story had made it to the financial press. The headline read, "Discrimination Incident at Westview Bank Threatens Major Client Relationship." The banking world was watching closely, and tomorrow Olivia would show them exactly what accountability looked like. The next morning arrived with clear skies and a crisp breeze. Olivia woke before her alarm, her mind already working through the day ahead. She dressed with particular care, choosing a tailored charcoal suit and pearl earrings. Today wasn't about being casual. Today was about power and purpose. She arrived at the office at 7:15 a.m., well ahead of the 8 a.m. board meeting. The early morning cleaning staff greeted her with surprise as she made her way to her office. She needed this quiet time to gather her thoughts. At 7:30 a.m., Daniel knocked on her open door, 2 coffee cups in hand. "Thought you might need this," he said, placing one on her desk. "The board members are starting to arrive." "Thank you," Olivia said, taking a grateful sip. "Any new developments overnight?" Daniel nodded. Westview Bank's stock dropped 4% in after-hours trading when the story hit the major financial news outlets. Their PR team released a statement around midnight calling it an unfortunate misunderstanding and saying they're committed to serving all clients with respect and dignity. Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Misunderstanding? That's their choice of words?" "That's not all," Daniel continued. 3 other corporate clients have contacted us asking about our plans. They're considering following our lead." "I'm not surprised," Olivia said. No one wants to bank with an institution that judges people by their appearance. She stood up, straightening her jacket. Let's not keep the board waiting. The boardroom was filled with the 12 members of Horizon's board of directors. John Parker, the chairman, greeted Olivia with a warm handshake. We're all behind you 100%, he said quietly before they took their seats. Patricia Johnson, one of the few female board members and a respected figure in finance, spoke first after Olivia's detailed account of the incident. Our clients trust us not just with their money, but with their values, she said firmly. We cannot maintain a relationship with an institution that fails to recognize basic dignity and respect. The discussion was thorough but united. The board voted unanimously to withdraw all assets from Westview National Bank immediately. They also approved Olivia's suggested public statement, a simple, direct explanation of their decision that focused on their company values rather than attacking the bank. What about the additional $500 million we were planning to place with them? Asked Richard Green, another board member. We'll distribute it among the 3 banks that Kimberly has vetted, Olivia explained. They're all offering competitive terms and all have strong diversity and inclusion records. By 9:30 a.m., the meeting concluded. John stood to address the room. I think I speak for everyone when I say we're not just voting to move our money. Today, we're voting to stand by our principles. Olivia, you've built this company on integrity and respect. Today's decision reflects those values. As the board members filed out, Patricia lingered behind. This is bigger than one incident, Olivia, she said. You know that, right? You're sending a message to the entire industry. Olivia nodded. I know. That's exactly the point. Meanwhile, at Westview National Bank, Gregory Howard had called an emergency executive meeting of his own. The bank's stock continued to fall as markets opened, now down nearly 6%. The news was spreading quickly through financial circles. Our statement isn't working, Lisa from PR said bluntly. The misunderstanding language is being criticized as downplaying what happened. Social media is hammering us. Gregory looked haggard, having clearly not slept much. Have we heard anything from Horizon? Susan shook her head. Nothing official. But I have contacts there who say the board meeting ended 30 minutes ago. It was unanimous. So they're pulling out, Gregory said, more a statement than a question. All indications point that way, Susan confirmed. And we're hearing rumors that other clients are considering the same. The Memphis City Employees Pension Fund called this morning asking questions about our diversity policies. Gregory ran a hand through his thinning hair. We need to speak with Olivia directly. I'll call her myself. I don't think that's going to help at this point, Lisa warned. We need a more substantial response. The misunderstanding language was a mistake. We need to acknowledge what this really was. And what was it, exactly? Gregory asked defensively. Racial profiling, Lisa said firmly. Frank made assumptions, based on Ms. Dawson's race and casual appearance. We need to own that, apologize sincerely, and outline specific steps we're taking to address it. Gregory looked around the table at his executive team. Most nodded in agreement with Lisa. Fine, he said finally. Draft a new statement and schedule diversity training for all staff, starting with management. That's a start, Susan said, but it may be too little, too late for Horizon. Back at Horizon's offices, the wheels were already in motion. Kimberly and her finance team were executing the transfer of funds. Daniel was handling communication with their clients about the banking change, and Olivia was preparing for a single, carefully selected media interview. Are you sure about this? Daniel asked as they reviewed the talking points. We could just release the statement. I'm sure, Olivia said. One interview with someone thoughtful who will let me focus on the bigger issues. Then we move forward. She had chosen Martina Rivera from Financial Times, a respected journalist known for her in-depth reporting. The interview was scheduled for 2 p.m. at Horizon's offices. At 1:30 p.m., Olivia's phone rang. It was Gregory Howard. Ms. Dawson, he began when she answered. I want to personally apologize for the incident yesterday. Frank Thompson's behavior was completely unacceptable, and he has been placed on indefinite leave pending an investigation. I appreciate the call, Mr. Howard. Olivia replied coolly. But I think you should know that our board has voted unanimously to withdraw all Horizon funds from Westview, effective immediately. There was a pause on the line. I understand you're upset, and you have every right to be. But I hope you'll reconsider. We've had a valuable relationship for many years. Perhaps we could meet in person to discuss how we can make this right. This isn't about making it right for me, Olivia explained. This is about your bank's culture. Your statement calling this a misunderstanding was telling. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was bias, plain and simple. We're issuing a new statement today, Gregory said quickly, and implementing mandatory diversity training for all staff. Those are positive steps, Olivia acknowledged. But our decision stands. You'll be receiving official notification from our financial team today. As she ended the call, Olivia checked the time. She had 20 minutes before the interview. She took a moment to center herself, reviewing the key points she wanted to make. When Martina Rivera arrived, they settled in Olivia's office rather than a formal conference room. Olivia wanted this to feel like a conversation, not a corporate statement. Thank you for speaking with me, Martina began. The video of what happened has gone viral. How did it feel to be treated that way in the bank's lobby? Olivia considered, her words carefully. What happened to me happens to people of color in professional settings every day, she said. The difference is, I'm in a position to respond with more than just my hurt feelings. And that response is to withdraw all of Horizon's funds? Yes, our board voted unanimously this morning. We're already in the process of moving our accounts to other institutions. That's over $175 million, correct? Plus the additional funds you were considering placing with them? Olivia nodded. Approximately $175 million in current accounts, and we were considering them for managing an additional $500 million. Martina looked impressed. That's a significant financial impact for Westview. Do you think it will change anything? Money talks in the banking world, Olivia said simply. But this isn't just about punishing one bank for one incident. It's about setting standards. It's about showing the financial industry that diversity isn't just something to put in a mission statement. It needs to be practiced at every level, from the lobby to the boardroom. As the interview continued, Olivia shifted the focus away from herself and toward the broader issues. By the time Martina left, the story had evolved from a viral video to a moment of accountability in the financial industry. By end of day, Horizon had already transferred over $50 million from Westview accounts, with the rest to follow in the coming days. 3 other corporate clients had announced they were reviewing their relationships with the bank. And Westview's stock had closed down nearly 9%. Gregory Howard sat alone in his office, staring at the latest figures. His phone rang. It was the chairman of the board. We need to talk, the chairman said without preamble. This is becoming a crisis. Gregory loosened his tie. I know. We're doing everything we can. Well, it's not enough, the chairman replied. The board is calling an emergency session tomorrow morning. I suggest you prepare. As night fell, both Olivia and Gregory found themselves still at their desks, but in very different positions. Olivia was leading with principle and purpose. Gregory was fighting for survival, and the financial world was watching closely, learning a valuable lesson about the true cost of prejudice. 3 days after the incident, the financial world continued to buzz with the story. Olivia's interview with Financial Times had been published online and shared thousands of times. Other news outlets picked up the story, and by Wednesday morning, it had moved beyond financial circles into mainstream news. Olivia sat in her office reviewing the latest transfer reports. Kimberly had done an impressive job moving their assets quickly. Already over $120 million had been transferred from Westview accounts to their new banking partners. We should be completely moved by Friday, Kimberly said, sitting across from Olivia's desk. The new banks have been incredibly helpful. It's amazing how fast they can work when motivated. Olivia smiled slightly. Nothing motivates a bank like the opportunity to secure a multi-billion-dollar client. Daniel knocked on the doorframe before entering. You need to see this, he said, placing his tablet on Olivia's desk. It showed Westview Bank's stock price, down 14% since Monday. The market is responding, Olivia observed, her voice neutral. It's not just our withdrawal, Daniel explained. 3 other major clients pulled out yesterday. The Memphis City Employees Pension Fund announced this morning they're moving their $340 million fund. And the Chicago Teachers Retirement System is reviewing their relationship. Kimberly whistled softly. That's another $1 billion at risk. It's about more than the money now, Daniel said. It's become a story about corporate values and accountability. Social media is full of people sharing stories about their experiences with Westview and other banks. Olivia nodded thoughtfully. Has Westview made any new statements? They released a longer apology last night, Daniel replied. Much better than the first one. They acknowledged the racial component, announced Frank Thompson has been terminated, and outlined new diversity initiatives they're implementing. Too late, Kimberly said flatly. Maybe, Olivia said. But it's still a positive step. Change happens in stages. She stood up and walked to the window. We've made our point. Now, we need to think about what comes next. What do you mean? Daniel asked. Olivia turned back to face them. I've been thinking. We can withdraw our money and move on, which sends a message. Or we can use this moment to create something more lasting. She paused. I want to launch an initiative focused on financial equity and inclusion. Both Daniel and Kimberly looked intrigued. What kind of initiative? Kimberly asked. I'm thinking a $50 million fund to invest in minority-owned financial services companies, plus a program to improve financial education in underserved communities. Olivia's eyes lit up as she described her vision. We could partner with community banks that have strong diversity records, maybe even create a certification program for banks that meet certain standards. Daniel smiled broadly. From an incident in a bank lobby to industry-wide change, that's turning lemons into lemonade. I'll present it to the board next week, Olivia said. Start putting together some preliminary numbers, Kimberly. As they discussed the details, Olivia's assistant buzzed on the intercom. Ms. Dawson, the chairman of Westview Bank's board is on line 1, William Bennett. The 3 executives exchanged surprised glances. I'll take it, Olivia said. Daniel and Kimberly started to leave, but Olivia gestured for them to stay as she picked up the phone. This is Olivia Dawson. Ms. Dawson, William Bennett here, came a deep voice. I hope I'm not interrupting your day. Not at all, Mr. Bennett. What can I do for you? First, let me personally apologize for what happened at our bank. It was inexcusable, and we've taken immediate action. So I've heard, Olivia replied. I saw your statement about Mr. Thompson's termination. Yes, but there have been other changes as well, Bennett continued. The board met yesterday. Gregory Howard has stepped down as CEO effective immediately. This caught Olivia by surprise. She made eye contact with Daniel and Kimberly, raising her eyebrows. That's a significant step, she said carefully. We felt it was necessary, Bennett explained. His initial handling of the situation revealed a deeper problem with our corporate culture, one that starts at the top. Olivia remained silent, waiting for him to continue. Ms. Dawson, I'm calling because we'd like to meet with you. Not to try to win back your business, we understand that ship has sailed, but to talk about how we can make meaningful changes at Westview. Real changes, not just press release promises. I appreciate that, Mr. Bennett. I'd be open to a meeting. Thank you, Bennett said, relief evident in his voice. There's one more thing. We'd like to offer you a position on our advisory board for diversity and inclusion initiatives. We need voices like yours to help us transform our culture. Olivia took a moment before responding. That's an interesting proposal, Mr. Bennett. Let me think about it. Why don't we start with that meeting and we can discuss possibilities then? After ending the call, Olivia filled Daniel and Kimberly in on the full conversation. Gregory Howard is out, Daniel said, shaking his head in amazement. That's a seismic shift. Do you think they're serious about change? Kimberly asked skeptically. We'll see, Olivia replied. Actions speak louder than words. But firing their CEO is certainly a significant action. The story continued to develop over the next 2 days. Financial news outlets reported that Westview had lost over $800 million in deposits in just 3 days, with more clients considering withdrawals. Their stock had stabilized somewhat after the announcement of Howard's departure, but was still down nearly 12% for the week. By Friday morning, Horizon had completely severed its banking relationship with Westview. As Olivia signed the final transfer authorization, she felt a complex mix of emotions: satisfaction that they had taken a stand, but also awareness of the heavy responsibility that came with their influence. Her interview with Financial Times had sparked a broader conversation. Several major financial publications had run editorials about diversity in banking. The hashtag #RockOrBankingWhileBlack was trending on social media, with thousands sharing similar experiences of being questioned or treated suspiciously in financial institutions. The phone on Olivia's desk rang. It was John Parker, the chairman of Horizon's board. "Olivia, have you seen the Wall Street Journal this morning?" he asked without preamble. "Not yet. I've been finalizing the transfers. They've done a feature on you and Horizon. Very positive. They're calling this a watershed moment for the industry." Olivia found the article online as they spoke. The headline read, "How One CEO's Stand Against Discrimination Could Transform Banking." "The board is extremely pleased with how you've handled this," John continued. "And I've heard about your idea for a financial equity initiative. We'd like you to present it at next week's meeting." "I'll be ready," Olivia assured him. After ending the call, Olivia sat quietly for a moment. What had begun as a humiliating incident had transformed into an opportunity for real change. The path forward was becoming clear. That afternoon, Olivia met with her marketing team to discuss the new initiative. They were developing a name and branding for the program. "We're thinking of calling it the Horizon Equity Initiative," said Ryan from marketing. "Simple, direct, and it ties to our company." "Name, I like it," Olivia nodded. "What about a tagline?" "How about banking on diversity?" suggested Laura, another team member. Olivia smiled. "Perfect." As the meeting wrapped up, Daniel pulled Olivia aside. "CBS Morning News called. They want to interview you about what happened and the changes it sparked in the industry." Olivia considered this. "One more interview, then we focus on moving forward. This isn't about me or even about what happened at Westview anymore. It's about creating lasting change." That evening, as Olivia drove home, she thought about the meeting, scheduled with Westview's board chairman the following week. She wasn't interested in rejoining them as a client, but she was intrigued by the advisory board position. Perhaps that was another way to create change from within. Her phone rang through her car's speaker system. It was Patricia Johnson from Horizon's board. "Olivia, I just read the journal article. Brilliant work." "Thank you, Patricia. But I didn't write it." Olivia laughed. "No, but you created the story through your actions," Patricia replied. "Do you realize what you've accomplished? You've turned a moment of discrimination into a movement for accountability. Banks across the country are reviewing their policies and training. You've hit them where it matters, their bottom line." "It wasn't just me," Olivia said. "It was our whole company taking a stand together." "True, but it started with you refusing to accept disrespect," Patricia said. "Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply stand our ground." As Olivia pulled into her driveway, she felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. The incident at the bank had been painful, but the response, both hers and the wider financial community's, gave her hope. Change was happening, faster than she could have imagined. Tomorrow would bring more meetings, more decisions, and more opportunities to shape that change. The banking world was watching, and Olivia Dawson was ready to lead. 6 months had passed since that fateful morning in the Westview Bank lobby. The financial world had moved on to other stories, but the effects of what happened that day continued to ripple through the industry. Olivia stood at the podium in the grand ballroom of the Hilton Hotel, looking out at the crowd gathered for the Financial Services Diversity Summit. As the keynote speaker, she felt the weight of hundreds of eyes watching her. Banking executives, investment managers, and financial journalists filled the room. "Thank you for that kind introduction," she began. 6 months ago, I walked into a bank where I had been a client for 7 years. I was treated like an intruder, someone who didn't belong. She paused, making eye contact with different people in the audience. Today, I'm not here to talk about that incident. I'm here to talk about what happened afterward and what it taught us about the power of accountability. From her position on stage, Olivia could see William Bennett, the chairman of Westview Bank, sitting in the front row. Next to him sat Natalie Parker, the new CEO of Westview, the first black woman to lead the institution. Both nodded encouragingly as she spoke. The Horizon Equity Initiative has now invested in 15 minority-owned financial services companies, Olivia continued. We've provided financial education workshops in 27 underserved communities. And most importantly, we've developed the banking equity standards that have now been adopted by 42 financial institutions nationwide. The audience applauded. These standards, created by Olivia's team in partnership with banking associations and diversity experts, provided clear benchmarks for inclusive banking practices. Institutions that met these standards could display a certification seal that increasingly mattered to consumers. But the most meaningful change hasn't come from our initiative, Olivia said. It's come from within the industry itself. Many of you in this room have taken bold steps to transform your institutions from the inside out. She nodded toward the Westview contingent. Westview Bank has become a model for how an institution can acknowledge its failings and make real, substantive changes. Their new leadership, revised training programs, and community outreach efforts have set a new standard. Their stock price, which initially fell 17% in the wake of our incident, has now rebounded to an all-time high. This was perhaps the most surprising development of all. Under Natalie Parker's leadership, Westview had embraced change wholeheartedly. They had overhauled their hiring practices, instituted comprehensive bias training, and created innovative community banking programs that attracted new customers. What began as a crisis had ultimately strengthened the institution. After the speech, Olivia mingled with attendees at the reception. Many wanted to share their own stories or discuss their diversity initiatives. She found herself energized by these conversations, seeing how much progress had been made. "Ms. Dawson," a voice called. Olivia turned to see Natalie Parker approaching, with William Bennett. "Natalie, William," Olivia greeted them warmly. In the months since the incident, she had worked closely with them as part of Westview's advisory board. "Your speech was inspiring," Natalie said. "Though you were too generous about our progress. We still have a long way to go." "Progress isn't a destination," Olivia replied. "It's an ongoing journey." William nodded. "Without that incident, as painful as it was, we might never have started this journey. Sometimes it takes a crisis to reveal problems that have been hidden in plain sight." "Speaking of progress," Natalie said, "we've just received approval for that special lending program for minority-owned businesses we discussed. $10 million in low-interest loans with simplified application requirements." "That's excellent news," Olivia said. "That will make a real difference for many entrepreneurs." As they continued chatting, Olivia noticed a familiar face across the room. Frank Thompson, the former regional manager whose actions had started this entire chain of events, stood awkwardly near the bar. He looked older somehow, less confident than she remembered. Noticing her gaze, William followed it and sighed. "He asked to attend, said he wanted to learn. We thought it might be good for him to see the positive changes that have come about." Olivia considered this for a moment. "I should say hello." "You don't have to," Natalie said quickly. "I know," Olivia replied. "But I want to." She made her way across the room to where Frank stood. He seemed startled when he realized she was approaching him. "Ms. Dawson," he said, his voice catching slightly. I'm surprised you would want to speak with me." "Hello, Mr. Thompson," Olivia said calmly. "I understand you wanted to attend this summit." Frank nodded, looking uncomfortable. "I've been doing a lot of thinking these past months. A lot of learning, too. I took a position at a community nonprofit that works with financial literacy. It pays about a third of what I made at Westview, but I'm learning more than I ever did there. That sounds like valuable work, Olivia said. What I did that day, Frank began, then stopped, gathering himself. There's no excuse for it. I've spent a lot of time examining my own biases, trying to understand why I acted the way I did. I just wanted you to know that while I can't undo what happened, it changed me, and I'm working every day to be better. Olivia studied his face. For a moment, she could see genuine remorse there and something else, a humility that hadn't been present before. We all have biases, Mr. Thompson, she said finally. The important thing is recognizing them and doing the work to overcome them. It sounds like you're on that path. After a few more minutes of conversation, Olivia returned to her team. Daniel watched her with a curious expression. Was that who I think it was? He asked. Olivia nodded. People can change, Daniel. Sometimes they just need a push. Later that evening, Olivia returned to her hotel room and kicked off her shoes with a sigh of relief. The day had been long but fulfilling. Her phone buzzed with a text from Kimberly. Check your email. Board approved the expansion of the Horizon Equity Initiative. Budget increased to $100 million. Olivia smiled. The initiative had proven so successful that the board had agreed to double down on their commitment. What had begun as a response to discrimination had evolved into a cornerstone of Horizon's corporate identity. Their client base had grown substantially, with many investors specifically citing their values-based approach as a reason for choosing Horizon. Her phone rang. It was Patricia from the board. I watched the live stream of your speech, Patricia said when Olivia answered. You were magnificent, but you didn't tell the whole story. What do you mean? Olivia asked. You didn't mention that Horizon's assets under management have grown from $2.6 billion to $3.8 billion in the past 6 months, or that 3 major pension funds cited our equity initiative as a key factor in their decision to work with us. Olivia laughed softly. Today wasn't about Horizon's success. Maybe not, Patricia replied. But it's worth noting that doing the right thing has also been good for business. That's a powerful message for the industry. After ending the call, Olivia walked to the window of her hotel room. The city lights spread out below her, millions of people going about their lives. She thought about how many of them had likely experienced moments of prejudice or discrimination in banks, stores, workplaces, without having the power to create accountability. The path forward was becoming clearer. The Horizon Equity Initiative could expand beyond banking into other industries. The standards they had developed could be adapted for retail, healthcare, education. Small moments of accountability could lead to broader systemic change. Her phone buzzed again with an incoming email. It was from a young black woman who had attended the summit, a recent MBA graduate just starting her career in finance. Ms. Dawson, the email began. I just wanted to thank you for what you did, not just for standing up to that bank manager, but for everything that followed. Because of you, I'm entering an industry that's being forced to change. Because of you, I can walk into any bank lobby knowing that if someone questions my presence, there might actually be consequences. You've given people like me not just inspiration, but protection. Thank you for showing that our dignity is worth fighting for. Olivia felt tears well up in her eyes as she read the message. This was the true measure of impact. Not the stock prices or the business growth, but the change in individual lives and experiences. She began typing a reply, already thinking about the next phase of their work. The incident at Westview Bank had been painful, but from that moment of shame and anger had come a movement for accountability and change. Not just for Olivia Dawson, CEO of a billion-dollar fund, but for everyone who had ever been judged by their appearance rather than their character or capabilities. The work wasn't finished. It might never be completely finished, but tonight, looking out at the city lights, Olivia felt something she hadn't expected to feel 6 months ago. Hope. Real, substantial hope that the financial world, and perhaps the world beyond it, could become more equitable, one moment of accountability at a time.